Wind Waker 2002, Jet Set Radio 2000, Cuphead 2017, Hades 2020. All four look great today. Crysis launched in 2007 as the most technically impressive game ever made. Today it looks like a game from 2007. That gap is not nostalgia. It is a pattern, and it runs through every console generation. Photorealistic games compete against real life. Real life does not change. The technology to simulate it improves every year. So every realistic game is making one specific claim. This is the best we can do right now. 2 years later, hardware improves, lighting improves, facial capture improves. The game that was a benchmark becomes the floor. Crysis required hardware most people did not own at launch. It was ahead of its time. Then, the time caught up. Rise. Son of Rome launched in 2013 as the Xbox One's visual showcase. Those character faces were extraordinary for that moment. They look like 2013 now. The pattern holds across every generation. Games that pushed realism in 2005 look like 2005. Games that pushed realism in 2013 look like 2013. The gap between impressive at launch and dated 2 years later keeps shrinking as hardware cycles accelerate. Stylized games compete against their own visual rules, not against real life. The question changes from, does this look real, to, does this fit the world we built? That second question does not expire. Jet Set Radio came out in 2000 on the Dreamcast. It holds the Guinness World Record as the first game to use cel shading. 25 years later, the visuals still read as deliberate, vibrant, and coherent. Not because the technology aged well, because the art direction was built around a specific idea of Tokyo youth culture. And that idea does not need a GPU upgrade. Nintendo ported Wind Waker to Switch 2 without updating textures or models. The GameCube original holds without modification. Cuphead hand-animated every frame, referencing 1930s cartoons. Studio MDHR spent 7 years on it. The visual reference is 100 years old, not a graphics card from 3 years ago. Hi-Fi Rush launched in 2023 with cel shading synchronized to its rhythm mechanics. A game released in that year deliberately chose a style that looked nothing like 2023, and it works exactly because of that. Stylized titles make up 60 to 65% of the world's most played games. Photorealistic, 35 to 40%. That split has held for years. Fortnite, Minecraft, Genshin Impact, Persona 5, Roblox, none chase photorealism, all generate revenue years or decades after launch. Fortnite has released thousands of skins since 2017. Each one must fit the same visual language instantly. Maintaining that consistency at photorealistic fidelity across that volume would be practically impossible. The Stylized foundation is production infrastructure, not just aesthetic preference. Stylization does not mean simplified production. In photorealistic work, dense geometry and complex lighting cover small mistakes. In stylized work, a single asset that is too realistic, too noisy, or too detailed breaks the whole scene. No detail to hide behind. Deep Rock Galactic builds every environment from bold shapes and high color contrast. In chaotic 4-player combat, players read terrain instantly. Enemies, objectives, exits. That readability required strict, sustained art direction across the entire production. Cuphead animated on paper first, scanned, then composited digitally. Every frame, 7 years. The labor matched any AAA realistic production, just in a different direction. Persona 5 Royal built an entire UI design language, menus, transitions, battle screens, around a punk graphic design aesthetic. Keeping that language consistent across 100 hours of content took the kind of art direction discipline that photorealistic games rarely need in their interfaces. Strong stylization runs on strong rules. One artist breaking those rules across 20 assets damages the entire visual coherence of the game. Some studios combine realistic environments with stylized characters. In practice, that combination breaks visual cohesion faster than either approach alone. Realistic surfaces follow physical light rules: roughness, reflections, absorption. Stylized materials intentionally ignore those rules: Put both in the same lighting system and the seam appears immediately. Overwatch handles this because Blizzard defined exact rules for materials, lighting, and proportions across both systems. The characters read as stylized. The environment grounds them. Nothing floats. Studios that mix without reconciling those rules produce games players feel are wrong, even when they cannot name the reason. Hybrid visual direction is not a middle ground. It is a third discipline that demands its own set of production rules. Chasing photorealism without Rockstar's or Naughty Dog's budget is a production bet that ages against you from day one. Those studios can sustain the realism race indefinitely. New hardware, new pipelines, new benchmarks every cycle. Most studios cannot. The more durable question is not how realistic you can make the game. It is what visual language will still read as intentional in 10 years. Jet Set Radio answered that question in 2000 with cel shading inspired by Tokyo street culture. Wind Waker answered it in 2002 with Cartoon Ocean Adventure. Cuphead answered it in 2017 with 1930s hand-drawn animation. Hades answered it in 2020 with Greek mythology rendered in bold, high-contrast illustration. Each built a visual language that competes only with itself. None of them needed a patch to stay relevant. Photorealism is expensive and temporary. Strong art direction costs the same and lasts longer. Kevuru Games builds game art across photorealistic and stylized pipelines, characters, environments, and assets built to survive the next hardware cycle.